my history of this property only goes back to the mid-70s. So that's why Sharon Graves is here to give us the real history behind the property. But what I can tell you is the property you see now was done with ARPA money. And of course we demoed the old Armory. We looked at every way possible to save that building and weren't able to do so. So I think the repurposing of this property and a qualified census tract was really needed for these kind of facilities in this area. So we're excited about this property. We're excited about the historical markers. And with further ado, I'll have Sharon give you the real history behind the property.
Okay, knowing that we were not going to have a speaker per se, I do have a lot of information, so bear with me. Because there's 3 signs, not 1. On this very site where you are right now stood the Madison Academy, a private school whose educators were themselves educated at some of the best Eastern colleges. For example, Professor S.A. Craig was a graduate of Yale. The Kentucky General Assembly passed an act for the endorsement of certain seminaries of learning in 1798, establishing 19 academies in Kentucky. Trustees were appointed to locate a site, choose the courses to be taught, and to raise money. The state gave 2 square miles of vacant land in Pulaski County to the trustees for the purpose of funding this academy. You will recognize some of the names of the 12 trustees: Green Clay, Christopher Irvin, Robert Caldwell. Maybe you don't recognize Mr. Caldwell's name yet. In 1798, Caldwell purchased 243¼ acres from John Miller in what is now Richmond. When the original trustees did not act in a timely manner by 1814 to begin the process of beginning the academy, the General Assembly appointed new trustees and gave a 2-year deadline. On February the 15th, 1816, Robert Caldwell deeded 1½ acres of land on the north side of Richmond to the trustees for $1. The deed stipulated that a church and a Masonic lodge could also share this lot. That never happened. So who was Robert Caldwell? He was the first dry goods merchant in Milford and the husband of Fanny Irvin, whose father was Christopher Irvin. He was elected to the Kentucky legislature in 1795, 1796, and 1798. A justice of the peace, a member of the Madison County Court who worked with Madison County surveyor Jonathan Crook to place a boundary line between Madison and Lincoln counties, and was chosen for the committee whose task was to draw plans for the new Madison County Courthouse in 1794. By an act of the General Assembly in 1820, all fines and forfeitures accrued in the county were to go towards the academy. In 1837, for example, Albert Hilbert died intestate with no wills. His land and personal property were sold, and the proceeds went to the academy. The Madison Female Institute drew female students away from the academy in the 1860s, and the academy was renamed the Madison Male Academy. By 1874, the academy ceased to exist as such due to dwindling enrollment and lack of funds to make necessary repairs on the building. An ad in the Louisville Courier-Journal in July 1874 announced that the Madison Seminary, the University Preparatory School, will open on September 28th. So they became connected with the university instead. But that is not the end of Robert Caldwell. In 1890, the General Assembly passed an act allowing the trustees of Madison Seminary to sell the 1 1/2 acre lot to the Richmond City School System. N.B. Turpin, who was a magistrate and a member of the Douglas and Turpin contracting firm, was chosen to design the new school to be called Caldwell High School. Dedicated in February 1895, the school was described as having, quote, 8 large rooms capable of accommodating the children of the city for several years to come. It will be heated by furnace, and the ventilation will be by hot and cold air ducts, the air of each room being charged every 15 minutes. The building will cover more ground than any structure in Richmond, and when completed will present an imposing appearance, unquote. There were 300 students in grades 1 through 10 with a course of study arranged to include 3 years of high school. Because of it being only recently organized, the first graduating class was not until 1896. There were 2 graduates in that class, Miss Willie Goodloe Smith and Miss Mary M. Gentry. In 1895, a wrought iron fence was built along 2nd Street and Moberly Avenue. In 1896, a local taxidermist, Dr. J.I. Ashbaugh, mounted an eagle and, quote, placed it in the school for the edification of the younger generation as well to ornament the building, unquote. Teachers were elected to their positions by the school board and were paid $25 a month. On November the 30th, an alarm was turned into the fire department at 8:30 a.m. Panic-stricken teachers and children raced from the building, but Mr. Richardson, the janitor, had the fire under control by the time the fire department arrived. By 1902, the population was 510 pupils. 2 new rooms were built in the 3rd floor, were described as being large, light, and airy, and well fitted for the purpose. By 1909, these very same rooms held 80 students and were described as being so poorly lit that children's eyes were suffering. Due to the overcrowding, the first grade students were housed in the Barlow School on Collins Street. An additional $25,000 was spent to build an annex containing classrooms and an auditorium onto the rear of the existing building, bringing the number of classrooms to 24. There was an abundance of pure water with modern drinking fountains, libraries in each classroom, and a complete chemical physical lab. In October 1919, the high school students were moved into the renovated Madison Female Academy, whose name was changed to Madison High School. The change of name was to perpetuate the memory of the old Madison Institute. The building was leased for 99 years. October 8th, 1920 was Fire Prevention Day. A lesson was presented to all students on the general danger of fire with emphasis on the hazards of a stampede and congestion of the aisle through excitement. A fire drill followed, and while there were more than 500 students in the building was cleared in 1 3/4 minutes. At 4:30 a.m. Wednesday morning, March the 9th, 1921, Mrs. C.H. Pigg, who lived on 2nd Street, called in a fire alarm. The school and the annex were engulfed in flames. A substitute janitor said the furnace was in good condition when he banked it the previous night. Evidence was later found showing that arson was the cause of the blaze. The estimated loss was $100,000. They only had insurance for $40,000. The building had cost $120,000 to construct. The following Monday, space had been located in the city churches, courthouse, police court, Madison High, and the normal school for all the students. The school board decided to abandon the 1.5 acres on 2nd Street and combine Caldwell and Madison High on the 8 acres. A new Madison High building was constructed on the site of the Madison Female Academy using building materials salvaged from Caldwell High School. This is not the end of Robert Caldwell's influence, though. The lot sat vacant for a number of years. In the meantime, a National Guard unit was formed at the request of Governor James Bennett McCreary in 1913. The McKee Skating Rink, located on South 1st Street, was chosen as the headquarters of the James B. McCreary Guard. Company M, 1st Regiment, was one of the 36 companies in the state and was awarded the highest average at annual inspection in 1914. The General Assembly Act of 1920 made it compulsory for fiscal courts to provide armories. By 1922, our guards were federally recognized as the 138th Hospital Company, 113th Medical Regiment, an element of the 38th Division. In 1927, companies G and H of the 113th Medical Regiment were headquartered in Richmond. As early as 1926, our National Guard was promised that there would be federal funds available to build a new armory. A 1939 estimate to build a new armory was $25,000. It increased to $35,000 in 1940, and later that year up to $40,000. The final price tag in 1942, $50,000. In April 1940, the Kentucky Court of Appeals ruled in Board of Trustees of Madison Academy versus Board of Education of City of Richmond that the city board could sell the Caldwell lot. The Madison County Fiscal Court and City of Richmond had each voted to split the $1,200 cost of the vacant lot in late 1939. The Richmond Board of Education requested that the new armory be called Caldwell Armory. The Works Progress Administration, using local contractors, began work on Monday, November the 9th, 1940, with completion in January 1942. Both companies, the 113th Medical Group, were called into federal service on January 17, 1941. Using the 1934 Active Militia Law, Governor Keene Johnson, who was a Madison County boy, organized the Kentucky Active Militia to temporarily replace the National Guard. This allowed men between the ages of 18 and 65 who were classified 4F, 2A, or otherwise could not serve in the armed forces were welcomed and no physical examination was required. The new armory also provided a space for many civilian activities: religious revivals, dances for charity, Red Cross sewing, skating rink, Legionnaire meetings, basketball games, state police headquarters, blood drives, auctions, and provided office space for the engineers who were designing the Bluegrass Ordinance. National Guard companies G and H 113th Medical Group was inactivated on November the 9th, 1945 at Camp Anza, California. After World War II, the Richmond National Guard was federally reorganized and recognized numerous times, from a medical unit to a field artillery battery to a supply and service battalion, before moving to the new facility. In February 1978, the new Armory on Highway 52 was completed. The City of Richmond accepted the North Street property from the Commonwealth of Kentucky for $1 on May the 10th. After remodeling in 1982, the building was occupied by Richmond Parks and Recreation and Richmond Tourism. In 2016, the building was no longer stable enough for occupancy. Due to the extensive cost of remodeling, the decision was made to demolish it, which occurred on March the 14th, 2022. On October 27, 2023, Armory Park was officially opened, and today, June the 10th, 2025, we dedicate 3 panels of historical interpretive markers celebrating the long history of the site and to remember Robert Caldwell's contributions. Thank you. Ready? Wes? Parks and Recreation employee John Kuntz will unveil the Madison Armory panel. Madison Academy panel. City Commissioner. So sorry. City Manager Rob Meinerich will unveil the Caldwell High School panel. Yeah, I'll give you that. Retired Kentucky National Guard Master Sergeant E8 Wes Jones, who was with the 103rd Supply and Service Battalion when the National Guard relocated to the new Armory, will unveil the Armory panel. Thank you. Come on and look.